Today, I want to talk to you about a topic that sometimes comes up with our clients, which is whether or not their car accident settlement is taxable in Missouri. And I want to give a disclaimer before I even go into the content of this video, which is that I am not a tax attorney. Anytime that we ultimately work with a client and there may be tax consequences, we will always tell them that it's best to talk to a tax attorney. What I will say is that if you've been injured in a car accident, the last thing you want to worry about is the IRS. Between medical appointments, missed work, and stress of recovery, thinking about taxes on top of your settlement can feel overwhelming. And many people do wonder, do I have to pay taxes on my car accident settlement in Missouri? And the good news is that in many situations, not all, it's why it's important to talk to a tax professional. Many situations, settlements of car accidents are not taxable if it meets certain requirements. And there are exceptions. Understanding the difference between taxable and non-taxable portions of a settlement can help you avoid surprises when tax season rolls around. So if you're wanting to understand car accident settlements as far as taxes, know that the settlement is money paid to resolve the personal injury claim whenever you don't go to trial. The goal is to compensate the injured person for what they lost as a result of the crash. That might include things like medical expenses, lost wages, property damage, and pain and suffering. Each of these categories can play a unique role in how the IRS looks at the settlement. The general rule, compensation for physical injuries is not taxable. The IRS generally does not tax money received as compensation for physical injuries and physical sickness. That means if you were injured in a car accident and received a settlement for your medical bills, pain and suffering tied to your injury, those amounts are usually tax-free. For example, if you broke your leg in a car crash and received money to cover your hospital bills, follow-up treatment, and compensation for pain, that money may not be considered taxable income. If you received a settlement for emotional distress directly related to your physical injuries, that may also be non-taxable. But there are situations where car accident settlements can be taxed, and that's why it's so important to talk to a tax attorney. While many car accident settlements aren't taxable, there are a few exceptions that you really should know about. One of those exceptions is lost wages. If part of your settlement is intended to replace income you lost while you're recovering, that portion can be taxable. The reason is that if you had been working instead of being injured, your regular wages would have been subject to the income tax. So when your settlement includes compensation for lost wages, the IRS may treat it the same way. Also, punitive damages. They're different than compensatory damages, and they're meant to punish the wrongdoer for reckless and intentional behavior, not to make up for your losses. The IRS considers punitive damages taxable income. Interest on settlements. Sometimes settlements do accrue interest, and if the settlement isn't paid right away, that interest can add up. Any interest you earn may be taxable. Emotional distress without physical injury. If your claim included compensation for emotional distress not linked to a physical injury, there may be taxable consequences. However, if there's distress as a result of the physical injury, it may be non-taxable. How Missouri law can play a role on this. Federal tax law is the main authority on whether your settlement is taxable. Missouri rules align closely with the IRS. Missouri generally follows federal guidance, so if the IRS considers it taxable, Missouri may also. That means that compensation for medical bills and physical injury related to damages may not be taxed. Lost wages and punitive damages will likely be taxed at both the federal and state. Some different examples can help clarify this point to see how this works in practice. So situation one, imagine somebody was rear-ended at a stoplight. They suffered whiplash. Her settlement covered her medical bills, physical therapy, and pain and suffering. And since all the compensation was related to physical injury, she may not have to pay taxes. Situation two, imagine somebody who missed 2 months of work after being hit by a distracted driver. Their settlement included medical bills, pain and suffering, and lost wages. Those lost wages may be taxable, while the rest may not be. In situation three, punitive damages. Imagine that somebody was struck by a drunk driver In addition to them being compensated for their injury, the court awarded punitive damages. Those punitive damages are taxable even though they're related to the injury. One thing that's really important is to keep good records. If you receive a settlement, it's important to keep documentation that clearly breaks down what portions are for medical bills, lost wages, pain and suffering, or punitive damages. Without this breakdown, it's potentially taxable in the entirety if there's not clarity as to which is which. Your settlement agreement should specify how the money is allocated for tax purposes so you have clarity. Having it in writing can protect you if there's questions asked. So some tips is one is to review your settlement agreement carefully. Make sure that you understand how the money is being divided. Set aside any funds that may be taxable so that you have the ability to pay those funds later. Always consult with a tax professional. This video is more a way to tune you into the potential issues, but not to give you advice how to handle them. One thing that's really critical is that if you want tax advice, to seek advice from a tax attorney. Also, file on time. If any of your settlement is taxable, make sure to include it in your return so you can avoid penalties. So why does this all matter for car accident victims? Recovering from a car accident is already stressful. The last thing you need is unexpected tax bill because of confusion about your settlement. By knowing what's taxable and what isn't, you can plan ahead, avoid problems with the IRS, and focus on your recovery. So are car accidents taxable in Missouri? I'll say it depends. In most cases, no, if it's just pain and suffering related to an injury, but there are portions that may be taxable. If you're expecting or have received a settlement, review your agreement carefully. Keep good records. This way you have peace of mind when tax season comes around.